Which marketing activity gets the best return on investment for your consulting business dollars? Well, today on the show, we're going to discuss exactly that, and we're going to show you how to get $21 for every dollar you invest in this specific marketing activity. Welcome to Your Consulting Business Podcast. My name is Russell Pearson, and this is episode 117. We're talking about a specific method of marketing that will get you 2,100% return on your investment. It's not social media, it's not paid advertising, and it's not referral marketing. Drum roll, please. And the answer? Email marketing. Now, I know what you're thinking. We don't want to turn into spam bots. We're not out there to hassle people. So in this episode, I want to show you how you can create email marketing that is incredibly engaging and something that people will actually look forward to receiving in their inbox. Interestingly, GetResponse have just put some statistics out that actually show the return on investment for everyone they're working with. And for anyone who puts $100 at least into their email marketing, they're going to get 21 times return on investment. So if they put $100 in, they're getting $2,100 back. Now, where is that money being spent? Well, part of it is being spent in the software. Part of it is being spent potentially in service delivery if you don't want to do it yourself. But on today's episode, I want to get over some of the hurdles that might be preventing you from running email marketing and actually show you what are the cool tips to enable you to have the best email marketing, not only getting that average of $21 return on investment, but getting far higher numbers. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. People don't like receiving emails. But in actual fact, it's not that people don't like receiving emails, they just don't like receiving most of the emails they get. In fact, there are some emails that you probably hang out for. You're actually hoping to receive them soon so you can bury yourself into them. You've probably got an email that you enjoy receiving. There's probably just one, two, or maybe three, but I'd love you to put that one in the comments. What is your favorite? What is your favorite email that you love diving into? It's the one you have a cuppa with and you'll actually read through just like in the old days we used to do with a newspaper. What is that email for you? Leave it in the chat. For me, it's a blacksmithing email. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but in my spare time, I'm an amateur blacksmith and I really enjoy it. I'm an enthusiast, if you will. And so when I get my association email that comes out kind of once a month, sometimes it's a little bit late. Number one, I notice that it's late. Number two, I put it to the side because I'm like, I'm going to sit down with a cuppa and I'm going to read all the way through it. It's something I'm interested in, maybe even a little obsessive about, and so it's something I like to dive into deeper. And so, number one, if you've got something that people are going to be engaged in because they're an enthusiast, that is an email that they would hang out for. But can you do that for your business? Well, I'm going to show you how you can absolutely do that for your business. And we're not going to use any of that direct response sort of sensationalized email marketing that you see out there in the world. When I'm thinking about email marketing, I don't just want to think about how to do good email marketing. I don't just want to think about how can I hook a next prospect and actually reel them into my business. I want to think about how can I use the written word to make the best email? How do I actually make the most engaging, most influential email that people are hanging out to actually read every single week? And think about it within your own business. If you could create a high quality, engaging email that people were hanging out to actually read every week, just imagine what that would do for your business. I think there is worth the investment of time and energy to actually understand email marketing and get good at it. Because if you can, it can completely transform your consulting business. That gives us a fantastic starting point so that we know we're not trying to be average. We're not trying to be mediocre. And so we can at least go, well, anything below that, we're not going to send. It's not just about putting any email out, it's about putting good quality email out. So let's talk about what makes good quality emails. So rule number one when it comes to good quality email marketing, it's not about you. There are so many consultants who want to share all the information that they've got in their brain. They want to share about all the things they've been thinking about. They want to get insights that they've had across to prospects and clients. But the key in sending any email, whether it's a newsletter or an individual email, is to understand that if you want these people to read it, it needs to be something that's highly relevant, contextually relevant to them right now, which means that your new idea or your blinding flash of the obvious or this thing that you are concerned about is rarely going to be what they are thinking about. So how can you put yourself in their seat? How can you think about the things that they want to know about and make sure that you're meeting them where they're at? Then you can bring them to your concepts, you can bring them to your ideas and your beliefs. But if you're not meeting the client where they're at, if you're not meeting the prospect on the email and saying, all right, this is where you're sitting, so let me give you something highly relevant that's going to engage you in the first instance. If you're not doing that, then they're not going to read, which means they're not going to respond, which means the email marketing is not going to be as effective as it possibly could be. So it's not about you, it is about them. And so how can you make every single email about something that they want to engage in? The second rule of good quality email marketing is no beige and boring, which means if you're the same as everybody else, if you're being appropriate and professional, that it is likely you are going to not only go to their junk mail, but even in their inbox, you're going to be looked over. They're not going to read it because they haven't been hanging out to read what's going on in your world. How do you combat that? Well, you've got to stand for something. You've got to stand out. Maybe it's about having a villain that they agree with and you're both on the same side working towards a common cause. Maybe it's about creating paradigm shifts for people and they want to see what is the next paradigm shift you're going to create for them. And really it's about just positioning your point of view. And in fact, I want to take that one step further. It's almost like point of vision. How can you be the leader for them so you're showing them a way forward? If you don't have a point of view or a point of vision, then you've really got nothing new for them to follow. If you don't have something for them to follow, you've got nothing for them to continue to read and be engaged in to see where they need to go next. The question I have for you is, what do you stand for? What are you willing to stand for in the written word? Number 3 is show, don't tell. This has always been relevant, but more and more it's becoming a necessity of how you actually engage people through email marketing. We're not just telling people something anymore. You know, the Googleization of information happened in the early 2000s, right? We're 2025 now. Things have moved along. Not only are we no longer in the knowledge economy, so people can get answers at the click of their fingers or the push of a button, we've moved on from even the wisdom economy, which is advisors and consultants showing people how to make this information contextually relevant to them in their situation. So at the very least, we're doing that. But we're moving even on from that, which is we want to show people how that's done rather than just tell them. So case studies, experiments. Experiments are great. If you can show them a recent thing that you've done and the outcome of that, they're more engaged to see what actually happened. Now, that doesn't even mean it needs to be successful all the time. In fact, the people who have the best email, the best open rates, the best engagement through the email marketing they do will show the experiments that don't work as much as the experiments that work. Showing people what you're doing, showing people what your clients are doing so that they can actually see behind the curtain is an amazing way to create fantastic email engagement. And finally, make it human. Those people who are aware of influence principles and persuasion principles will understand that emotion in particular is one of the great ways of creating things that are shareable and getting people to engage. So highly funny, highly sad, creating an emotional feeling in the work that you're doing. While we understand that, every time we try and make something professional for our business, often we bring down the emotive side of things. We want to make it more appropriate and more approachable rather than being highly effective. And so ensuring that you're not losing your humanity in the professionalization of the emails you put out there is a massive key to make sure that you create highly engaged email marketing. If you're not creating content that's funny or sad or highly inspiring, if it's not making people feel something, then they won't recall it. One of the massive recall triggers that we can do is emotion, and we want to make sure that there's emotion in all the work that we're doing if we want it to influence human behavior. And so how do we do that? Well, we don't add professionalism and we don't add appropriate to dumb it down, because it takes it back to that second rule, which is we're making it beige and boring. We've got to avoid the beige and boring by making it more human, because when we do make it more human, people feel like they can approach us. And if we are approachable, which means we're starting more conversations. And if we're starting more conversations, we are moving more of the right people into point of sale. And if we're having those point of sale conversations within a consulting business, we have client flow. And if we've got client flow, we've got a successful consulting business. So making sure you're using all those principles. It's not about you. We're not making it beige and boring. Show, don't tell, and make it human. If you're doing those things, It starts conversations, and that is the game of your digital email marketing. So why does email marketing have such a great return on investment? Well, leverage. Because it's one to many. We have one action and we can go out to as many people on our list. So making sure that you're growing a list of people that you can communicate via email is a massive asset for you and your consulting business. The second step with that list creation is making sure that those clients are highly relevant. Now, that works back to the good reason for having a niche, but even if you don't have a niche, making sure that the list you create is full of people who can say yes. So they can say yes to your offer. They can say yes to having a conversation with you. And when they have a conversation with you, they can say yes to becoming a client. So decision makers. You want to have your entire list full of decision makers who are in a space where you can help. Now, I want to give you a quick example from one of the clients that we work with. Her name is Kylie. She's got a fantastic strategic offer that sells for $36,000 a pop. Now, she doesn't need a lot of clients to actually make a good amount of money. But when she's wanting to ramp things up, she's going to look for 5 to 6 new prospect conversations each week. Traditionally, she was able to do that through a system we put in place, which was outreach. And so she would contact people, and through a number of conversations, she would book an appointment. So she would contact people and she would book an appointment, and it worked very well. But what she found is as she got busy, keeping up with those conversations became more difficult because conversations can be time consuming. The outreach can be time consuming. But I'll tell you what, if you want to build a successful business fast, outreach is one of the fastest ways to do it. Because if you don't have a list of people you can send an email, right? Well, then you've got to do some form of outreach. So I do love outreach as a strategy for consultants. Once you've built a list though, and that list can be as small as 100 people, you can start engaging conversations one to many. So she starts doing email marketing. We show her a method that she can use that's far less time consuming. And now she's able to get 3 of those 6 engagements each week that actually save her half her time. Now, she's moving in a way to actually get all of the engagements through email marketing so that she doesn't have to do that outreach anymore, but she knows that she can do the outreach, it's in her back pocket, whenever she needs to accelerate things. If she now wants 12 in a week, she can do the email marketing and the outreach. There are so many different ways that you can do things once you've got momentum running. So the great thing about email marketing is the leverage in it, where you do one piece of writing and it engages with how many people are on your list. The other 2 things that actually get in the way of enabling people to run successful email is it's not actually generating leads. Now, funnily enough, even if you're never pushing it to do lead generation, it does that from time to time. And that's where you get that 21 for $1 average. But we can do far better. There is all sorts of ways that we can create lead generation in a consulting business that is not about people clicking a link and buying something. It's about them responding to the email so that we're in a conversation. The key for any consulting business model is to ensure that you're having constant conversations, because your conversations are your point of sale. Whether it be with existing clients or new prospects, if you're not speaking to them, you're not getting consulting clients. You're not extending that consulting opportunity into the next gig. And so conversations are your point of sale. So if you can create conversations via the email marketing and the email newsletters you put out, then you are on the right track. So making sure that your KPI, the key performance indicator for your email, is not just about getting emails out. It's certainly not just about open rates or even click-through rates. It's about how many conversations am I starting through this written word. And so now if we change the paradigm on what that is, people want good email. People also want to engage in things that start conversation. What are the technical hurdles that can get in the way? Well, number 1, open rates do actually matter. On average, 22% of people are opening email, which means that 78% of people are not. And so if they're not opening email, they're not seeing the email, which means they're not reading the email, which means they're not going to respond. So the higher you can have that open rate, ideally then have that readability rate, then the more response or the more leverage you're going to get from your email marketing. And so there are a couple of things that you need to put in place from a technical point of view. You don't want to send email from your Outlook. If you're trying to send bulk email from your normal email provider, you're actually going to get blacklisted. And I've seen so many people get blacklisted because they attempted that method of communication. Get yourself a bulk email provider. Some people use MailChimp, other people use GetResponse. There are a lot of other providers out there. And if one tip is to go to Google and type in software like MailChimp, and you'll get a whole list of different options that you can try. Find the one that's easy for you to use. Then Finally, making sure that your email is authenticated, which means you need specific text records on your web server. Now that's SPF, it's going to be DKIM, and it's going to be DMARC records. If you don't know how to put those things in place, number one, go and look up how to do it either on YouTube or on Google. And if you don't want to have to do it yourself, then speak to your web provider about installing those for you. They are going to be absolutely key because, especially with some changes that Google put out in the last couple of years, there is a distrust in the majority of email out there. So authenticating with these records basically says, this server that is sending out from me is from me, which means I'm allowing or I'm giving permission to this server to send email on my behalf. So those records enable other servers to recognize that you've allowed this email to be sent via your domain name. Now, I'm not going to get into the technicals of how to install those things, but understanding by installing those things, it is more likely that I'm going to be in their inbox, and it's more likely I'm not going to be in their junk mail. Now, the other technical aspect is you want people to communicate back to you, because the more often that their server is communicating with your server, the more likely that there is a trust being built between the two servers. If they're only getting an email once a month or once a quarter, then it's like a stranger's email is being sent through. But if you're getting regular email coming through and a regular response back, the server sees this as a trusted relationship, which means it's more likely to put your mail into their inbox. And if it's in their inbox, they're going to see it more often, they're going to read it more often, which means they're going to engage with you more often. So the game is really about how can you get people to see and then read your email, which is why subject lines are so important. That's why pre-text, which is the little bit of text that shows underneath the subject line, is so important. And also while the start of an email is so important, so they continue to read. So they read the email, they engage with the email, they respond back to you in some fashion, even if it's a comment on the email. This is how we get a conversation started. And at the end of the day, if the servers see a conversation happening between two email servers, then they know that there is a relationship intact. So why is email so effective? Well, the leverage. It's one to many. It's also one of the fastest ways to start a conversation. Most people look at their emails at least once every 24 hours, which means it's a very fast way of engaging people to a next step. So if you're not currently using email marketing, if not your primary marketing activity, at least part of your marketing mix, then you've got a massive opportunity in front of you that I suggest you take advantage of. And so how do you get started? Well, number one, you have to have a list. There needs to be a bunch of emails that you can send email out to. Number two, you go and have a look at the lead generation episode. I'll try and put it somewhere up here that actually showed you how to create a lead magnet that meant you got new emails every day. And if you're looking for an example of what I think is a good lead magnet, go to russellpearsonprograms.com. You can even download that resource and check out my own funnel. You can actually have a look at what are the emails that I send out, which ones are actually engaging, which ones do you respond to, and then use that within your own business. And then all you need to do is get yourself an email software so you can send from one to many. Finally, send an email. Even if you're sending 1 to 10 people, it's a start. And then you can grow your email list as you go. Once you get to 500 or even 1,000 people on your list, you're going to see massive impact from email marketing. And if you put the tips in that I suggested today, you're going to get far bigger results than most people are getting. Remember, the average is $21 for every dollar of effort spent. And if you have any other questions about email marketing and how to use it in your consulting business, put that in the comments as well. We'd love to take those questions on. And we just put a new show out called Consulting Talk Live, which is live every week on YouTube. So if you haven't already, subscribe for this show, Your Consulting Business Podcast, which will also allow you to subscribe for Consulting Talk Live so that you can get those questions answered live here on the channel. My name is Russell Pearson. This is episode 117 of the Your Consulting Business Podcast. Until next time, stay passionate, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.